Friends, Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing, and we are with the executive producer of the show, Huck L. Berry. Oh, she's a good girl. Oh, she's a good girl, yeah. Oh, that's such a pretty girl. Yeah, she's so pretty. She's a good girl, too, yeah. She's a good girl. Okay, we're going to get on with this. Yes, a special edition of the Can-Am Missing Project. Yeah. Life has so many weird twists and turns in my world. I can't even begin to tell you, folks. And I don't like doing these special edition ones because those usually mean that something's not right. And yeah, something's not right. That's true. To really understand me, you have to kind of understand my family. I don't talk about it that much. But I think you're going to get a big dose of it today. I'm going to talk about my dad. So, Paul Paulides was born January 1930 in St. Paul, Minnesota. And when my dad was really young, his dad had an injury on the farm in Minnesota. And that injury ended up with him having testicular cancer. It's a little unclear how it all evolved, but my dad just told me that he had an injury. His dad was young. He was young. His mom was young. And the testicular cancer ended up taking my dad's life. And he had a couple sisters at the time. No support. And my dad's mother had contacts in San Francisco. And they knew they could go there and get some support. So my dad's mom took the family, went to San Francisco. Well, she needed to find a way to support a whole group of people. 3 sisters and my dad. And she searched around, she did a lot of odd jobs. And she eventually got a job being a matron for the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. And at the time, they didn't have deputy females, they called them matrons. But they were the ones that worked the jail and worked the female side of the jail, etc. Well, there wasn't a man in the house. And my dad's mom ended up meeting a man named Terry. I met Terry a bunch of times. Very nice man. Who stepped into a household. Had to have been rough on him. And he, at the time, was an ambulance driver for San Francisco General Hospital all around the greater San Francisco area. Rough job. Rough job back then. But he was employed by the city and county of San Francisco. And it was a civil service job, which was a good job. So now they had 2 civil service employees under one house. They had a good income. They had a stable life. Everything was going pretty good. Well, at the time, my dad was turning 18. The Korean War was happening. And he went into the Army. And he was getting his physical. And my dad said he thought somebody was looking out for him. Because during the physical, they found a lump on his chest. And the Army doctor said, we'll take him, but he's got to go in and have an operation, get that taken out and analyzed. So they put him in the hospital, they operated on him, and they found a lump that was benign. Well, my dad thought, oh, this is going to be bad. They're probably going to send me to the front lines somewhere. And in reality, he got blessed. He was sent to West Germany as a military policeman. This is the actual picture of my dad. He was going through the induction process in Fort Ord out of Monterey. On the back of the picture that I have of this, it actually says Fort Ord. So that's what he looked like when he was young. Well, he still didn't quite know what was going to happen. So he gets sent to West Germany. And he goes through all of the rifle training, pistol training. And one of the commanders happened to be out on the pistol range when my dad was shooting and saw that my dad was just drilling the target, like 10x every shot. It was weird. The commander tells the sergeant, hey, get Paulides, I want to talk to him. They pull him out of line. Now this is just a bare bones, brand new soldier. My dad says he thinks, oh, I'm getting into big trouble. The commander says, hey, I want you to report tomorrow over at this location, and that's where the pistol team's at. You're now on the pistol team. My dad goes, maybe this is good. What happened is that he went all around Europe representing the Army on their shooting team. And back when I was young, I remember seeing huge boxes of medals and pistol medals. My dad was like this great shot. And that's what he did. And he says, yeah, they put me on duty at special spots being a military policeman, and I had to do my time. But he goes, really, a lot of the time was pretty fun, pretty nice. They treated us well. So he got lucky. So he does this tour in the Army, and they send him back to Fort Ord. He gets discharged honorably, and he comes back to San Francisco. Well, he doesn't know what to do. He thinks he wants to be a roofer, he said, and he goes to work for this roofing company. And in San Francisco, some of the homes are really tall, 3-4 stories tall. And he said about once a month, one of the roofers would fall off the roof, break their back. Many of them would die. He said it was scary. So he said, yeah, I decided I don't want to do that anymore. But he kept doing it. And at the time, his mom was still a matron for the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. But he looked into that and he said, I can't see myself sitting in the jail all the time. I don't want to be a sheriff, because that's really all the San Francisco sheriffs do. He goes, I think I want to join the San Francisco Police Department. So he applies, goes through the testing, ends up getting real high on the list, and he gets hired. Goes through the police academy. Now, as this is going on, he meets my mom. Now, my mom, this is a fascinating story. My dad liked to hunt at the time, and he was hunting way up in Northern California. And he comes back to camp and he meets this older guy, my grandfather, my mom's dad. And they hit it off. They start talking. My grandpa asks him, well, so you married? No. You dating anybody? No. Come on home with me. I've got a daughter I want you to meet. So they come back from hunting, and my mom at the time was a bank teller for Bank of America. And my dad comes in, and my dad says, he goes, wow, your mom's gorgeous. I said, I'm lucky. So they sit down, they have a great dinner. Everyone's talking, having fun, and my mom and my dad hit it off. So my dad gets out of the police academy, and this picture's taken of my dad and my grandmother. So my grandmother was a San Francisco sheriff's matron, got the badge, And my dad's a San Francisco police officer with the badge. I think that is just a treasure picture. Awesome. So as my dad comes out of the academy and my mom and him start to date, things are going really good. They get along super well. And my dad likes her family, she likes his family. And they're kind of fast tracking the relationship towards something special, right? Well, they talk about getting married, on the verge of getting married. My dad's on duty one night after coming out of the academy. And when you're a new academy graduate, you always get the garbage jobs coming out. That's just the way it is. So he gets assigned riding the wagon in downtown San Francisco. Now, back in those days, it's different. The way it was is that it was an open back truck. You could stand up in the back of the truck. And two policemen ride in the back of the truck, kind of like firemen. And there's a driver who's also a policeman. The idea back then was to keep the patrolmen in the city of San Francisco on their streets so they didn't have to transport people to the jail, and they just have one truck drive around, pick everybody up, and go to the jail, which my dad said sucked. Everyone hated doing the job. But it was his rotation, he had to do it. So he's riding on the back, and he's got a partner riding on the back and a partner driving. They got a call to pick up a prisoner that had been rowdy. And the prisoner was arrested for hit and run. The guy had a lengthy record. And they pick the prisoner up, they transfer him. And my dad said that the transfer is done by his partner. So his partner goes over and gets the prisoner from the patrolman, searches him, puts him in the back handcuffed in front. I asked my dad, I said, why did you guys do that? He goes, I don't know why you did it. I never asked. So they're leaving the scene. One suspect in the back, this guy for hit and run, and my dad and his partner. They drive away and they get to the first stoplight. The suspect reaches in his pocket, pulls out a pocket knife, opens the blade, and runs straight at this other cop who's closest to him. They fall backwards into the street. And this guy stabs that cop as they're going onto the street. My dad jumps the guy from behind, hits the emergency alert on the back to tell the driver they have an emergency. Truck stops. My dad's now wrestling with this guy with the knife on the ground. His partner's stabbed over here on the street. Suspect still has the knife. The third policeman comes running over and is trying to wrestle the knife out of the guy's hand as my dad's holding the guy down on the street. As he's wrestling the knife away, this other cop gets cut up, but gets the knife away. My dad subdues the guy. More policemen come, and all three of them end up going to the hospital. The suspect that stabbed the first officer, he had a belly wound, but it didn't puncture the abdomen, supposedly. But he needed stitches. The guy who wrestled the knife needed stitches. My dad was just looked up because when he tackled him off the back, he hit his head on the pavement. He had a big thing, and essentially they all went home at the end of the night. But this thing made big news in San Francisco. And my mom's sitting at home. Comes on the news. 2 policemen stabbed, a third injured, and then they list the names. My mom's freaking out. That night, my dad comes home. They sent him home after he went to the hospital. Well, my mom says, hey, I love you. I want us to be together. But you can't do that job anymore. I can't live every night worrying if you're going to come home at the end of the night. And my dad, smart guy that he was, says, I understand. I'll find something else. So my dad went into the civil service office for the city, said, hey, I'm a policeman. What are the obstacles from transferring from the police department to the fire department? They said, well, there's really not many. You have all the same requirements going from one to the other. The only thing is that you'd have to wait for the next fire academy and then go through that and you're in. But they're looking for men right now, so you're good. And that's how it all evolved. He spent almost no time as a policeman, but spent 30 years in total municipal law enforcement and fire experience for the city and county of San Francisco. My mom and dad got married, and they decided that they wanted to move from San Francisco, get out of there, and move to Cupertino, about 50 miles south. It was a new evolving community. They moved there. They bought a home right away. They'd been saving their money. And of course, Cupertino was the home of Apple Computer now. But it was really in no place. It was just a suburb of San Jose at the time. Now, firemen in San Francisco work 24-hour shifts on, at the time, this is my dad's schedule, and 48 hours off. 24 on, 48 hours off. So they had a lot of time off. And almost all the firemen had some type of second or third jobs. Well, when we were young, my dad had the acumen of selling real estate in this booming community. And he was quickly made the broker of the biggest office in the city. And he was making a lot more money doing that than he was being a fireman, but he was smart. He knew he had enough years in the fire department to keep going, and he kept going. Along the way in Cupertino, while he was a broker, he met a lot of contractors that were building homes and things, and he kept his ears and eyes open. He was always looking for new things. And the one thing that all the builders were looking for was a custom builder of swimming pools. There's a lot of swimming pool builders, but, you know, they built normal backyard pools. They needed a custom builder. My dad was listening to this, and he ended up going out and getting his contractor's license. Now, we were young then. This is a picture of my sister, me, and my dad next to a Christmas tree when we were really young living in Cupertino. Yeah, that's really young. It's kind of a good picture of us. So, he started to build custom swimming pools after he got his contractor's license. And the hardest thing was finding subcontractors to do some of the work, like the tile and the coping and the steel. The big companies that did plaster and gunite, he found all those. And of course, as I got older, he had me doing a lot of the grunt, horrible work. Like one of my jobs, I'll never forget, I was probably 12, 13 years old. He paid me a fortune to do it, but my job was to dig the trenches that the pipe for the pools went in. It was horrible. It was horrible work. I'm surprised I didn't break my back, but he kind of bribed me by paying me so much money to do it, and it kept me out of trouble, I guess. So building these custom pools was very lucrative. And it wasn't long before we moved from that house in Cupertino to a second house in Cupertino. Sold one, bought the other. Kind of more on the west side of the city, nicer area, bigger house. And it was at about that same time that my family bought a home in Tahoma, California, a second home on the west side of Lake Tahoe. was a great deal. We'd always been skiing, but now we really upped it. I've been skiing since I was 6 years old. My parents loved to ski, and it put us close to the Desolation Valley Wilderness area where we love to go fishing. Yeah, things were going really good for my dad, and he had this knack for working really hard all the time. And then we would vacation. Well, I was about 12 years old maybe, and we'd gone fishing during the summer, he and I, into places all the time out in the middle of nowhere. Well, this one time he said, I remember this trip that your grandfather and I took deer hunting one time up into Lassen County. And we remember seeing a lot of fish at this one place in the middle of nowhere. Nobody was there. We're going to go fishing there. I said, okay. So we get some backpacks together, and we decided that we're going to hike into this area, spend a night or two, and just fish. Nobody around. It was down in this valley. Steep, too steep for most people. They wouldn't do it. Steep going in, steep coming out. But going in was easy because that would take you about an hour. Coming out would take you about 2 to 3 hours. And it was just outside the city limits of Redding. And during the summer, it's like 95, 100 degrees there every day. It was horrible. Now, once you got down into the valley, it was all covered by trees and things. It was a lot cooler. So we drive up there, get out of the car, put the backpacks on, hike down into the valley, hotter than who knows. It had to be 95 degrees out by the time we reached the bottom. Dump our packs, grab our fishing rods, and I'm following my dad upstream, probably a couple hundred yards to fish at this one hole he remembered seeing. So we end up walking upstream, and as we're going upstream, we're smelling something that smells like fire. And this is bad, folks. It's like a tinderbox in this area. You don't want to get caught in a fire in this area. It could kill you. So my dad said, we're going to find out where this fire is, and we're either going to put it out or we're going to run out of here. So we're walking down the banks of this river, and we get up into this area that's pretty much wide open. And there's this really deep pool there from this river, small river. And it's all sandy banks. And right next to the river, on the sand bank, is this little teepee structure that's burning. It's like somebody took a bunch of twigs, put them together, and started this little fire. It hadn't been burning 3 minutes. So before my dad and I walk into this clearing, oh, by the way, he always carries a gun. Police training. Before we enter this clearing, he's looking everywhere. And then he said, come on. So we walk across the sandbank, and the sand is all dry. So when you step on dry sand, you really can't see any footprints in it. We get up to the bank, and we're looking around on the wet sand where the water is washed up. Don't see anything. So he kicks this little teepee structure into the water, puts out the fire. He's looking all around. And we just stand there like this for like 2 or 3 minutes. He's just listening. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. It was the strangest. I knew something was wrong. I wasn't very smart back then, but I knew something was wrong. So he goes, follow me. So we start walking back the way we came into that area. And I'm thinking to myself, are we going home? So we get back to the backpacks. He goes, hey, we're hiking out. Get a big drink of water before we go out and fill up the canteens, and we're out of here. So we put the backpacks on. It's like the hottest part of the day. Grueling heat. We make it back to the car. We get in the car. And I said, what was that? He goes, I don't know. He said, whatever left a message for us. They don't want us there. Because Dave, nobody in their right mind starts a fire in weather in a tinderbox like that. Nobody. We left. And we drove home. I think we drove into Reading. We stopped at like an A&W or something. We were starving. We get some burgers and root beer. And then we drove all the way home. We drove all the way out, all the way home in one day. It was a grueling day. It was a day I will never, ever, ever forget. Years later, he and I talked about it. He says, I don't know what was going on there. But I guarantee you and I weren't going to sleep there that night. I said, no, that's a smart decision. Smart decision. So that was kind of the type of vacation that we'd take together. Now this is Christmas holiday at my aunt's house, who also lived in San Jose. That's my sister, that's me, my dad, my mom. Yeah, my mom was really pretty. So what would happen is that every Christmas we'd get together at either my folks' house or my aunt's house. This one was at my aunt's house. And she brought a photographer out and everybody had pictures taken. And that was one of the rare family photos we ever had taken together. But holidays were really fun for us. We had the grandparents come down from San Francisco. We'd all get together in a big mass of people at my aunt and uncle's house. My uncle, Ray Della, he was the general manager of San Jose Meat Company. And he was Mr. Easygoing, a big Italian guy, friendly, great cook. And he had a family. Well, the one I was closest to was my cousin, Randy, about 5 years younger than me. Great, great guy. One year, my uncle, his son, my cousin Randy, my dad and I went on several fishing trips together to Dunsmuir, California, and to Northern California steelhead and salmon fishing. Look back on that now. I said, it's kind of weird. My uncle's gone. My dad and Randy are now gone. Randy he was 5 years younger than me. Several years ago, he did a trip to China for HP. He came back, and he was back a couple hours, and he had a heart attack in the parking lot at HP and died. Miss him greatly. Absolutely stellar individual. Randy Della. So, at about the time we're all getting older in high school and stuff, one thing I really liked to do was I liked to go scuba diving. From the time I was 12, I got my lifeguard certificate, got my scuba diving certificate, and I approached, this is a bizarre idea, wait till you hear it. I approached our principal at our high school and I said, hey, over at De Anza College, they just set a world record for playing underwater Monopoly for 24 hours. I'd like to do it for 36 and put our high school on the map. I said, Dave, let's do it. We ended up doing it. Now, this is a picture of my dad over here on the far left. That's my sister, me, and these are everybody that participated. Klaus Elfing, Mickey Chesick, Mark Peabody. All these people helped, and we played for 24 hours. It was awesome. It was awesome. We had a scuba center in Mountain View that would shimmy tanks back to us to keep it going. It was a weird idea, but hey, so be it. It was fun. We set a world record. Now, I started to get out of high school. And I'm applying at different schools. And my dad goes, I really want you to go to Berkeley. I don't want to go to Berkeley. Yeah, but I really want you to go to Berkeley. No, you don't hear me. I don't want to go to Berkeley. No, I want you to go to Berkeley. Well, my dad was the kind of guy, when he said he wants you to do something, you do it. I did it. I learned later in life to never do that to my kids, and I didn't. And I allowed them to pick the schools they wanted to go to. But I had the grades, had the test scores, went to Berkeley, and he says, I want you to be an attorney. I don't want to be an attorney. I want you to be an attorney. Okay. Younger folks out there, got a young family, do not ever make your dreams your kids' dreams. Don't force your beliefs onto them. What they want to do in life may not be what you want to do in life. Allow them to be who they want to be, as long as it's something productive. Well, I went to Berkeley, went there for 2 years, hated it. No, I don't mean oh yeah, I hated it. No, I really hated it. I've told you before that I wrote papers for classes that were perfectly written, and I got slammed and I got horrible grades just because I wasn't writing to the liberal standards of the school that Berkeley was. It was an indoctrination center, I guarantee it. And I came home and I showed the papers to my parents, and they said, well, Dave, what's wrong with this? I said, I didn't write what they wanted me to write, so they gave me a bad grade. Nothing's wrong with the paper. It's grammatically perfect. How do I know it's perfect? Because I had a PhD in English. Read it and look at it before I turned it in. Well, near my second year at Berkeley, I could tell I wasn't going to make it 4 years. There's no way. And way back in high school, I knew I wanted to be a policeman. It's just weird. I wanted to be a policeman. I know it. And without telling my parents, I went out and I took Fremont, Newark, and Union City's test. They had a 3-city test, 1 test. You take 1 test and all 3 cities accept the results. I ended up being like number 8 out of 1,600 people. I could pick any city I wanted to work for. Well, originally I wanted to go to San Jose, but I couldn't go to San Jose because they were under a consent decree with the federal government that they could only hire bilinguals. I wasn't bilingual, so I had to go to Fremont. I had to go to Fremont, spend my time there, and then I could transfer to San Jose, which I eventually did. But I spent 3 years at Fremont in total. It was only after lengthy conversations with my mom that I broke the information to my dad that I was leaving Cal and going to the police department. My mom said, don't worry about it, Dave. Let me take care of it. I don't know what she said to him, but I came home from school a couple weeks later, and my dad said, hey, put his arm around me and goes, hey, it'll be okay. That's all he said. But my mom was a peacemaker. She'd always make it work. I was trying to think of some of the happiest times I ever saw my dad. I was a policeman for about 4 years, and I called my dad and I said, hey, I hear the fishing is really good up in Northern California. Let's get going. Salmon and steelhead are running. Now's the time we got to go. He goes, let's go. So we go up to the Smith River up near Crescent City, California. I get us a room, this motel, and for 3 days we float the Smith River. And I'm telling you folks, I fished a lot of days in my life. Nothing was like this. It's like everything was on fire. And one of these days, Dave hooked into a monster steelhead. 25-pound steelhead that I fought for 2 hours. The guide we were with said, Dave, we're in the middle of a fight. Dave, this will be the biggest steelhead you ever caught in your life. Don't lose it, Dave. I'm thinking, oh God, don't say that, please. You're jinxing me. Well, this is that day of fishing. Look, I mean, you can see the smile on my dad's face. He was loving it. He was loving it. We had a great day. It's probably one of the happiest faces I've ever seen on him. So that was a great day. Later on, my mom was in her mid-50s, early 50s. And she used to run every day, just like me, stay in shape. And one day she comes home and her back hurts. She thought, well, maybe I need some new shoes. She got some new shoes. Didn't get any better. After about a month of the back not getting any better, no other symptoms, she goes to the doctor. And they said, oh, maybe you got some back problems, x-rays. Just stay off running for a couple weeks, let it heal, A couple weeks later, she goes back to running, same thing. After months of testing, she finally goes to a specialist. And they take a blood test, and they find out she has what's called multiple myeloma. Incurable at the time. And what it is it's a blood-borne cancer that eats away at your bones, and your bones end up looking like Swiss cheese. Now they have pretty much a cure for it. At my mom's time, they did not. And watching my mom suffer like hell, horrible, horrible. But my dad stood tall next to her and took care of her. Yeah, he did a great job. Well, that kind of devastated our whole family. My mom was pretty much an insulation for any of the rough spots my dad had in life. And he could be a little gruff, to say the least. He alienated several people in our family, wouldn't talk to them for a variety of reasons. And there were times where he and I didn't talk for a while just because he could be pretty rough and rude and brutal. Later on in life, I forgave him for everything. My sister didn't. She wouldn't talk to him. He loved to golf. We golfed a lot together. Well, after my mom passed, he'd spent a lot of time at our houses. And he finally ended up meeting another lady. They ended up getting married, and they moved to Southern California, where it was warmer, and they could play golf a lot. I would say that my dad seemed really happy with this lady. Her name was Chris. Chris had no kids. He had 2 kids. My sister and Chris did not get along at all. They wouldn't talk. And I think that really hurt my dad. Towards the end, the last 10 years, let's say, my dad and I talked. I always kept it very light. Never talked about my sister. Never talked about anything sensitive. Kept it light. He was scheduled to go in to have a procedure done on his neck. He was 95. He fell and he fractured his vertebrae. And the last time we communicated, he said that he was in a lot of pain. He was looking forward to this procedure. He was having a tough time moving around, etc. Well, what happened was that a couple days ago, his neck was killing him. Told Chris, I'm going to go into the room, take a nap. Never woke up. He ended up having a stroke, took his life. One thing, I have no regrets about my dad. None. I was one of the few people in our family that still talk to him. And I won't go into all the side issues. There were many. We've all been victims of different things, but including me, but I was always under the belief that I would forgive him. Because he made me who I am. I got the work ethic from my dad. He worked like nobody ever knew. He was a very smart man that sometimes showed little patience for people's lack of effort or lack of integrity. Now, when you look at somebody's life, what would you say about my dad? Well, he raised 2 kids, me. My sister became a VP at Apple Computer. Very successful. My dad built over 100 custom swimming pools. And he was very proud to say they never cracked, never fractured, never had any issues. He lived on to the ripe age of 95. And he had all of his marbles. Oh, if I could only ask for that. He was married to my mom for 35 years. He was a great caregiver to her. And he had a second marriage to Chris for decades. That's a success. And by the way, I want to thank Chris for being my dad's wife and caring for him. From everything I could tell, they had years of happiness together. What more could I ask? Now, for the people that are followers of mine, yeah, the last 2 years have been crappy, to say the least. My son passed away. Alan Adadero passed away. Scott Carpenter passes away. Harvey Pratt passes away. Now my dad passes away. Those are all men that were prominent in my life. All gone. I have no words. I have no words. I'm almost numb to it at this point. I was thinking today, who else could pass away that's that close to me? You've taken them all. What's going on? Why all men? Why the closest people to me? Well, folks, it's hard to put a man's life in front of you and really adequately explain it. But that's my dad's story. I can only pray he's in heaven. Give my mom a big hug. Paulides out.